Currently, we have a full board. We are short one member with the election of Damon McQuaid to the Board of Selectmen. So at this time, I will take nominations for chair as part of our reorganization.
I would like to nominate Greg Bittner if he will have it.
I
think he's been very active.
I thank you, and I'm honored, and I would like to do it.
All those in favor? Other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, I'll turn the meeting over to Greg.
Alrighty, I guess I would accept nominations for vice chair.
I would nominate Matthew Allison.
Second?
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Aye.
if Matt is accepted.
To accept. I would accept nominations for clerk.
I nominate Ken Chenis. Would you accept?
I would.
I'll second.
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Defense by offense.
Okay, so now we move into committees. I would accept nominations for the MRPC rep.
I will continue.
I would nominate Mr. Prokofiew.
Second?
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Sorry. The MJTC rep.
I'll stay on if it's acceptable to the board.
Second?
We need a nomination.
I'll nominate him.
Oh, sorry.
I'll
Second.
nominate Ken.
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 The school building committee representative, I'm currently the representative, and I'd like to continue. I think we don't have any more regularly scheduled meetings, and we should be wrapping up soon, so.
I'll nominate Greg.
I second.
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Capital Planning Committee representative, I believe Damon was our last representative. I would be interested in doing that if anyone would care to nominate me.
I'll nominate Greg Bittner.
I'll second.
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Open Space Committee member,
I would like to stay if I may.
I will nominate Dave.
Second?
any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Green Communities Task Force, I believe this was a liaison originally. I did
It was.
take on the responsibility on my own of becoming a member. I'd still like to do that if anyone would care to nominate me.
Are you also a member?
Yes. So
I am a
he'd
member,
continue to
so-
be a member regardless of whether he was the planning board's liaison or not,
I nominate Greg.
Second.
unless he
well-
chose to step down.
Just
Sure.
for sake of discussion, it's the Board of Selectmen appointed me.
Okay.
You're appointing me as the liaison.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
yes. So
okay, I
you
just wanna
continue,
make sure that
so
you-
whoever is the liaison, you, Greg Bittner, would continue to be a member of the committee.
Right.
So in theory, there could be two people from the planning board there if someone else were appointed liaison.
Right,
Because you'd
right,
continue to
exactly.
be a sitting member of the committee.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that you weren't appointing me as a member, you were
Correct.
appointing me as a liaison, so. We have a motion and a second, so any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Stormwater Task Force.
I'd be willing to remain on both my committees.
I nominate Matthew.
Second?
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And AgCom liaison.
Second.
Any more nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, 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 aye.
I have my agenda here. Do we have a cheat sheet, Adam, for the chair?
I didn't see when the agenda.
There's one in your...
No, I just didn't know if I
Oh.
can go by the agenda, just I didn't know
Yeah,
if there was
the
any
agenda's pretty much the...
Okay. Roll call, we're all present.
We're all reorganized.
We're all
So
reorganized.
we're on to public
Any
comment.
public comment from the public? Mr. McQuaid.
Mr. Chair, Damon McQuaid, 49 Brookview Terrace. I just wanted to come by and let you know I dropped off my letter of resignation to Adam and to the town clerk this morning, pending my election to Board of Selectmen. And I wanted to thank the members of the board, present and past, and Adam and Marjorie and even Marion for guiding me along the way. And I learned a lot my time on the board, and didn't enjoy every minute, but almost every minute. So thanks, guys, for good past 4 years, and good luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment from the public? Any public comment from the board? I do have one public comment. I would just like to thank Damon for his service. I did learn a lot from working with you, and I wish you luck on the Board of Selectmen, so.
I want to second that, and I look forward to working with you while you're on the Board of Selectmen.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.
Okay, we'll move on to minutes approval from May 6th of 2017.
I can't give you the green sheet. It's precious.
Can I just initial?
Yeah.
So unless there's any amendments, this was the attendance at annual town meeting.
Oh, I was there. Was it the
You were,
6th? Or was it
Ken
the-
was the only one absent.
No issues.
Anyone else?
I abstain.
Is that, minutes approval from May 8th, 2017. Any comments, concerns?
No issues.
Nope.
Minutes from the public hearing of 496 Massachusetts Avenue on 5/8/17.
No issues.
No issues?
Okay, we'll go right into committee reports. Stormwater Task Force?
We have not met since the last meeting. We will be meeting this coming Thursday in the Ritter Building at 6 o'clock instead of the 6:30 typical schedule to facilitate our DCI consultants giving us a presentation.
Okay. Agricultural Commission?
Again, we have not met since, well, they have not met since, and they will be meeting that same night, this coming Thursday in the Ritter downstairs at 7 o'clock.
Do you have a beginning for the, a beginning date for the farmer's market?
Yeah, last year it was earlier than people liked, so I'm thinking it might be the middle or the last weekend in June, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, you haven't had, no one's taken a vote on that yet? Okay.
Well, as far as I know.
Okay.
I haven't missed a meeting.
Capital Planning Committee, our representative is no longer present. I didn't know if Adam had any information.
I don't believe that they've met since, the last action would have been town meeting, and it will be next August, September before they really start to kick that off again.
Okay. School Building Committee met on May 10th. I apologize, I had forgotten to bring my notes, but we're basically all buttoned up. There were two outstanding issues that were being addressed. One was the drainage outside of along the student parking area. They did determine that it was overflow, not groundwater. They did do the work to dug a trench with a pipe and some stone, and they did not establish the grass cover over it yet because they just want to make sure that that was an adequate fix before they went ahead and cleaned that up and covered it up. The snow and ice issues of the falling snow and ice, we did vote to do a budget transfer to finance that. I want to say it was somewhere around $80,000, and again, I apologize for not having my notes. And I believe they wanted to put in roughly 300 linear feet of double wide ice barriers to to make sure that problem doesn't happen again. The leaks in the roof, there is still currently a leak in the gym roof. They are attributing that to the installation of the solar panels. They have not found the source yet, and there is some concern that it may be underneath some of the racking for the panels, so they have concerns as to whether they're going to have to remove panels to find that. So that is an ongoing issue that I don't think is under the responsibility of the school building committee. I think the solar panel installation insurance should be covering that. It's just a matter of finding where that leak is. And on the good side, we will be coming in with roughly $2.8 million left in the contingency fund, hopefully when all is said and done, unless there's anything that we haven't seen coming forward yet. So basically we'll be coming in at 2.8 million under the estimated budget. A lot of the things that were fixed didn't come out of the contingency fund. They were budget transfers from credits from the, I think they overestimated the asbestos abatement from the old building and things of that nature. So we still absorb the cost, but it still remains within the original budget that was promised to the residents. And that's that. And Green Communities Task Force, we have not met.
On Green Communities, did you ever do the final walkthrough and audit with DOER?
I think John Londa did that. He did give the year-end report. I know they did the walkthrough. I'm not sure what the result of it was. I would assume they...
I was just curious. You had mentioned the last time.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
They did the walkthrough. I'm not sure. I don't believe they found any issues, but I think they're just basically walked through to see what we did what we said we were going to do. And
usually
make sure
they don't find too many.
So, and I have no idea of when the next meeting would be. Hopefully, I think it would be soon, because we have some things we can move forward on now, so. MJTC?
Meeting was May 10th, but as I mentioned at the previous meeting, I was unable to attend that. I don't believe we have an alternate, and the minutes have not yet been published, so I'll provide an update on that when I get the minutes from the May 10th meeting.
Okay. MRPC?
The next meeting is scheduled for June 1st. And nothing on open space currently scheduled.
Alrighty. Director's items.
Use table.
Don't we have to?
You have the decision, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot you guys were so generous.
That was
sign the plans now or after the meeting?
I don't mind waiting after. I don't think they're here waiting for them.
I do have a question on this.
Sure.
I reached out to one of the commissioners on Wednesday when after Tuesday I was at a selectmen meeting, found out from Jack Rodkins that they're going to be paving 2A.
Yes, the superintendent had stopped by to pay some of the bills from this and indicated that they're in the process of getting their water line off the road.
Stubbed out?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, I actually saw the stakes. They had stakes from there all the way down to basically
They said it was a
Stone
little
Farm.
quicker than they wanted to, but they were going to be able to do it before the state got in there and paved.
Did they have to do anything with the drainage?
My understanding is that the state is moving forward with paving, and the drainage may take some study, so it could be a little while before anything happens with that.
They've got the mill all the way, they've milled the pavement through Shirley all the way up to where the Nashua crosses under in 2A, right by the old, David Ross has moved since, but it was the old Rotary Club.
And I know I saw a couple of crews out end of last week, must have been Thursday, measuring and marking for paving, a couple of DOT crews.
Do you know where they're going from and to, from Air
Line
Center?
to line. Oh, in Lunenburg, they're doing the entire length of 2A.
Okay. All the way to basically Pleasant Street for the most part, right?
Yeah, I think that they may be going all the way down to John Fitch. Mill and overlay. The state is redoing 2A.
I saw the...
What overlay?
Keating's has a whole...
Mill and overlay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Keating's has a big setup in the Littleton Center, and they've milled from Littleton Center all the way to just before the line. They've done a lot of milling.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, Littleton's a different MPO, though.
Does the state not manage their roads? That's 2A in that area?
They might manage the road, but the funding comes from the MPOs for stuff like this, I believe.
Okay.
And I think what happened, the reason that they're doing this now is they needed a project to fill some space.
Take some money.
And this project fit in, and it's a book job, so they just kind of can go out and rifle it off, and they don't have to do a lot of design and drainage and all of that.
Oh, we're signing now.
Signing the decision now, we'll do the plans after.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty. Definitions and use table.
Yeah, so we're into 4.6 on the use table.
Thank you.
And the one we got today has been updated.
I have not updated anything.
Thank you.
My thought was, I feel as though as we moved through this, we keep going back into the definitions, we keep talking about the use table, and rather than being, having to keep distributing a new use table, I find it easier to track all the changes on one. So I have a master table that I'm then going to take and go back and make the changes. And I've been working on the accessory uses, the design standards, and the overlay districts. And so that'll come out in the next day or two to you guys. And then I'll go back and I'll look at section 4.1, the overlay for all districts, the bits and pieces for all districts, and try and integrate that in so that we create one holistic chapter of 4.0 that will replace the totality of it, overlay districts and all, in a hopefully more comprehensive and easier to follow format.
Okay.
Or at least for me.
Okay.
And, again, I'm more than open once we get a draft of the form together for you guys to say, this doesn't make sense to us, let's look at this or that, and we can certainly shift stuff around. So we're into what's labeled as heavy commercial. I think all of these category titles will change as we start to finalize what it is. The names were always just kind of placeholders. So we're into auto body shops, which are kind of what they are. Dent and sheet metal repair, Bondo. Oftentimes they're associated with painting, and if I remember correctly, it says you can do painting, but no engine or powertrain repair, and painting is heavily regulated by DEP, and requires a significant amount of investment in equipment, but can be done if you meet all the requirements. So pretty much we're looking at the commercial district for that. So it'd be a special permit in Summer Street, it'd be a special permit in 2A, and it'd be a special permit in Whalum. CSP, SP, and CSP respectively.
And SP and commercial.
Correct. Which should,
Okay.
auto repair, this is, sorry.
It's the same thing, correct?
Yeah, and this is where you get into the guts of the engine and fluids and, yanking stuff apart and,
So I have a question.
sure.
Given that we are putting these in the exact same categories, and auto repair facility includes body work and painting, can we just get rid of auto body shop, or do we see a need to have the two definitions? Because one's inclusive of the other. And
Yeah,
there's
auto repair seems to
there's
be,
no differences in where we place them as far as the zones or overlays.
I mean, it is a
It's
different
still-
discipline, but,
Yeah, it's still a repair, it's just not a mechanical.
yeah,
It's more of a cosmetic.
yeah.
But I guess,
So he's saying
I mean,
that
if you,
the
if
second
you'd like,
one's
we can remove body and painting from repair and separate them into two types of facilities, or we can call it one specific type of facility.
If they're regulated the same, wouldn't it make sense to combine them and?
right,
But
because,
they're
I
not-
mean, even if you crash a
That's fine.
car and bring it to the body repair, they're not just doing the body work, they're doing the mechanical repairs there as well. And then,
Some body shops, some of them,
Depending
yeah,
on
some
what
of
it
them
is.
ship it off, so that's fine, I have no problem with that.
So we just go with auto repair facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just gets rid of one extra.
and like you said, the state would mandate that they do it indoors, whatever needs to be done indoors, the painting and whatnot, okay. So we're
But it remains the
striking-
same. It's SP,
We're striking
CSP.
461.
Because 462 is inclusive.
Remains the same, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Should we, hold on,
Both, what?
painting, should we, I guess it doesn't, should we add frame repair or just, to-
We certainly can.
Yeah, you
I
should.
think
I mean, it
that's.
says including but not limited to.
Okay,
Body fender frame.
And body fender frame.
Fender is a subcategory of body.
Yeah, why fender?
I guess you could say body frame.
Body frame muffler.
Instead of fender.
Works for me.
okay.
Boat service
Oil
yard.
change, fabrication, painting, tire service, and
Repair
sales.
garage, boat storage yard.
Any other amendments on that?
On
On boat service?
No, now we're into boat service.
Oh.
Which will, again, looking at commercial as special permit,
Mm-hmm.
and it would include boat repair and garage services.
So we have one or two? We have two now, don't we? Is that one next to the old hub, the Commonwealth Motorsports? Is that a boat repair or is that
Yeah,
just
there's
sales?
Fitchburg Marine,
two.
and then there's the one up by the police station.
Yep. So, the only thing on this one is I think the wording is a little awkward around where it says stored until repairs are completed,
Okay.
because they also allow storage for winter storage and non-use storage.
Yeah, we talked about this a long time ago.
I thought we did too. So I would just say repaired and stored and scratch
yeah.
Until
until
repaired
the
or-
rest of the
yeah.
sentence. Yeah.
So now, we have this already in 2A.
You know what, I'm gonna put stored short or long-term.
Okay. And storage for short or long term, that's fine. I can deal with that.
And that way, it doesn't just become oh, well, they're storing it, they're not repairing it. Because it says boats are repaired and stored, so that if you're just storing it, there isn't a confusion of, and I'll throw an and or.
So, but do we want to leave these as pre-existing, or do we don't want to allow them?
We don't have to change, if something exists, it continues to exist legally
Yeah,
until it's abandoned.
yeah. I'm asking, do we want to, I mean, there are two there, do we want to allow more there on 2A? Because it seems,
Well,
or,
they would be under special permit, right? So-
yeah.
Well, the Fitchburg Marine down Greg's
Pleasant,
Way
yeah.
is in the commercial zone, if I'm not mistaken. So it would continue to be allowed. The
The one in front of the
I
police
guess-
station.
one in front of the police station, I don't believe is in a commercial zone.
It's in the two-way overlay.
That's Beale Street. It is in the commercial zone, so.
Okay, well, so,
But, sorry.
Because this is Beale Street.
Yeah, I suppose it would be, huh?
So that would be an acceptable place for it again.
okay.
I guess, is your question pro or anti the allowance of boat storage within a commercial zone?
It's pro.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the area where those are both are
Yeah.
would continue to be allowed as
Okay.
location in the commercial zone.
okay. Just seemed sort of similar to other things that we would allow by special permit in some of the overlay districts. So that's all.
And it would be CSP in,
Because it's not there. It's not listed there now. That's what I'm getting.
correct.
South Street would be CSP, Route 2A would be SP,
Yep.
and Whalen would be
SP.
CSP.
CSP, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So just like auto repair facility.
I
That's
was
what I
gonna
was
say, I would assume they would be allowed anywhere basically that an auto repair facility, because it's
Yep.
basically the same thing.
Exactly.
And at that point, should we include storage of cars under auto repair facility, or is there, because like 2A, the
No.
KNC Motors, they have some for sale, but then they store the ones that are like on deck. They don't have a ton. I think they have a special permit for 35 cars, and they don't have more than 10.
That,
Or is that a number?
That falls under car sales.
I agree.
Was that
Okay.
another, don't we have a category for that?
I thought we had auto
Auto
sales,
sale?
and if we don't, it's an oversight
Would
that
that
we
be
should
light industrial or
go back and add in there.
just
Yeah, I don't-
commercial?
No, we don't.
Pawn shop?
Oh, we're missing it.
No.
Good catch, Greg.
So I'll come up with an auto sales definition.
Okay.
Should it include some mechanical as well? 'Cause
yeah,
I know they
generally-
bring them in and fix their own cars and sell them.
Yeah, generally what happens with auto sales and with anything is accessory uses become anything that's not 51% or more of the gross receipts for the year. So it's very uncommon to find auto sales, at least first line auto sales, that don't include repair. And so often it's included as part of the definition. It's something I would probably put in there as an accessory. Repair would be allowed as accessory.
Right. What about a repair shop that mostly does repairs but sells, they have a dealership license where they sell a couple, 3, 4 cars out there?
We can look at putting that in as an accessory use.
Okay.
Is what I would say. I'd hate to mince the two into a definition. I think it gets sloppy
Right.
as a mixed definition. I've run across some incredibly talented mechanics who become car hoarders, because one day they're going to fix that Subaru and they're going to put it up for sale, and
Or start their own parts department?
yeah, I had a guy that I
Cars
used to bring my car to who was the fairest, most reasonably priced mechanic I've ever met, and he had the ugliest, most disorganized repair yard because he just had cars. And it's a danger of that kind of mix, so I'd prefer to
Yeah.
have it as accessory.
We should try to get some kind of wording in there on the auto repair facility, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I deal with several also that they turn into little mini auto junkyards, because they buy repairable wrecks to get the parts off them, because it's cheaper to repair other people's cars with repairable wreck cars. Before you know it, you have a small, auto recycling
Right, and
yard.
I know we have something for like residential where you can't have so many unregistered, you can have one, I think, unregistered
Yeah.
vehicle. Is there a way to incorporate a number of vehicles as a tipping point for accessory use or a?
Before we go down that road, I'm wondering if, don't we have a sightliness bylaw?
No.
We don't. So what was the lumber mill down the street getting called on?
What lumber?
Noise, oh, never mind.
It was noise.
And, with the thing with sightliness bylaws is they're
Subjective.
Yeah.
incredibly subjective, and they're really, you get into an aesthetic sort of thing, and you often have to hang your hat on things like safety issues or environmental issues to enforce them. So I think you're probably on a better path with limit the number of unregistered vehicles, because if somebody's really busy and they've got 24 cars that they're in the process of repairing, either they're going to move them through there quickly, or people are going to come take them and go somewhere else. Whereas unregistered vehicles just kind of can sit and languish for a while.
Right. I mean, I grew up, my best friend's father owned a service station. They do gas, used cars, and repairs. They keep it very nice, but they do a high turnover of cars from the auctions.
And I mean,
they were selling 10, 12 cars a week, so they would just,
Yeah.
they have to keep an inventory or else they're just not gonna.
And as with anything else, there's always a spectrum, and some people are incredibly good at keeping a nice, tight, good-looking ship, and there's those people who fall in the middle, and then you get they just get caught behind or stuck in the repair cycle.
Right. Yeah, because when I think service station, I expect to see the cars stored there.
So if we didn't put a maximum number of unregistered vehicles, they would still fall under regulation by the bylaw that stipulates that you can't have more than, what, 1 or 2 unregistered? As a business?
I'd have to look at that, I don't know.
Well,
I believe it actually says at a residence.
right, and I think if they have a dealer's license, they
Yeah,
may be
then
able to
'cause
have more because.
Because they're
again,
not registered once they're part of a dealer's license.
Right, I think that's included in the dealer's license. Again, I think the one on 2A, they had originally 50 cars, but then they said, we're really not gonna need that much, and they dropped it down to 35.
And, you can get into enforcing sightliness through the license, but that, you run into a consistency issue with that sometimes.
Has to be in the order of, right?
Yeah, or, I mean, every year they have to renew their dealer's license, and if their yard's a hot mess, and they're told that they need to clean it up, and they continue to obfuscate that, then you can say, well, then we're not gonna renew your dealership license based on this, but that can also be messy. Because again, it goes to subjectiveness of, how come me and not that guy? So, putting a measurable number in there makes sense.
And would there be another factor per acre, per frontage, or per square foot of building?
We can talk about that. I don't know that it's...
Doesn't matter.
I don't think that it does matter. I think that if you have a tiny little lot and you're filling it up with unregistered vehicles, it's going to make it harder for you to run your business, so you're less likely to do it. But does that mean then that auto repair facilities buy bigger lots so they can store more cars that they may or may not use? And honestly, the bigger the lot, the more cars, the closer to a junkyard it becomes, and I think it turns into a snowball.
And would that address just storage? Because I know where like the auto light glass, they have just storage. They don't do any repairs. It's just interior car storage.
I was going to bring that up. What about covered store? I mean, if you don't see the cars,
Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to build a building to store your cars in that are junk and...
Well, even classic cars.
Classic car, then that's a garage. That's a storage use.
Right.
That's
Okay.
warehousing.
Okay.
As opposed to, and I guess junk cars would be a warehousing too, but...
yeah, but they wouldn't be registered, and classics would be, so more than likely.
And I think even the
Have to be
residential
insured.
one says exterior storage.
Yeah.
So if you had like a barn and
Yeah.
your hobby was restoring cars and you had,
Yeah.
3 or 4 cars that you were working on in rotation, I think if no one sees them, no one can complain.
Right.
Right, but, yeah, because, again, Jarvis Ford Nair, they have their dealership. They also use the rent space to store their excess cars that, as a, so. Be back on car wash. Here we go.
All right. So, on to car wash.
Yep, definition looks good. And
We got some SPs and some
yep, the
CSPs to add.
CSPs and SPs and CSP added. Look the same as the previous one. This is the same, except we allow this one in retail.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm going to recommend we just eliminate retail commercial and fold it into the commercial zone, because it's only in one spot over off Townsend Harbor Road. So that little dark square in the back, where Townsend Harbor Road and Mass Ave come together, is the only retail commercial in town.
And it's right next to commercial.
Exactly.
That's the wood lot there, right on the corner.
So we'd just make it commercial?
Yeah, we would just pull the commercial back into that zone and eliminate retail commercial.
Which would be more inclusive. So,
That's gonna require town meeting vote though, right?
Yeah, this whole thing's gonna require
I
town
mean,
meeting vote.
yeah, the zoning change though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and I mean, if we eliminate it from here, we have to change it on the map.
Yeah.
And as I said, I think, once we've passed this, it's time to then really get the markers out and look at the map and see how the map fits together with the new sets of definitions.
Okay.
So we're good with car wash. Construction, sales, and services.
so this will be the construction, sales, and service, and contract yard and equipment sales and equipment repair. Those are the only ones that, and trade shop, seem to be different between retail, commercial,
Yeah.
and commercial. So we just want to make sure that if we merge those two, that we're comfortable with that area that's designated.
Supporting those as,
Yeah, as, like, construction, sales, and service would be a by right instead of a special permit there. As would equipment sales and equipment repair service and trade shop.
I think maybe equipment repair service would be
And
the only one
commercial
I would
solar.
look at shifting.
Commercial, which one?
The equipment repair service.
467.
I would suggest maybe we flip that over to
Just industrial?
special permit in the commercial.
Whoa, I'm sorry, we jumping way ahead now?
Yeah, sorry, I was drawing a corollary based upon the previous conversation of merging RC and C. And so I was looking at the deltas between them and where we may be introducing a by right capability in that area that we previously hadn't. And so,
So we may be able to eliminate some of these.
yeah, well, if we are going to merge them, I'd like to sway towards the more conservative approach of merging them, where we take away the by right and we change them to special permit, if that would be okay.
On all of them or on
see.
specific ones?
On commercial, I would think, but
Like
No,
construction?
no, I mean on specific uses or on all of the uses that were different.
Well, I guess we can look at the ones that are different and consider them in that location.
Okay.
Which do we think are good by right in that location? I definitely agree that equipment repair service should be special permit.
I think construction, sales, and services in that location, I don't think would be problematically intrusive. It still requires site plan approval for new construction, and there isn't currently a facility there. So it would be a change of use. And, there's no automobile heavy equipment supplies, sales or services, so it's essentially Mackey.
Isn't there the truck place on Chase Road?
No, I'm talking about the definition of construction, sales, and services, and the location at Townsend Harbor Road that was, or is currently, retail commercial. And if
Right.
that were switched to commercial, construction, sales, and services would be by right. So it would be similar to putting Mackey at that location, because they don't sell heavy equipment or automobiles, and construction, sales, and services is essentially Mackey.
Right.
As a definition.
Yeah, that's okay.
Do we define heavy equipment sales, service, and rent, supplies and rentals anywhere?
Well,
Well, we're excluding them, but
yeah,
I would think they should be included somewhere where
yeah,
appropriate.
the equipment sales is 468,
Okay,
and 467 is
Equipment
equipment
sales,
repair
right.
service.
I'll just
sale
the
of,
opposite in my.
No,
in my
467 is equipment repair service for mine?
468 is repair.
Oh, yeah, no, there's
That one is
there's
sales.
The numbers are
switched.
switched.
The numbers are switched
Construction.
between the two, between the list and the
The list
definition.
and the definitions don't line up.
You're
number-wise.
right.
But I'm going by the list.
So, okay, so back to what you were saying, Ken, so you're saying that
the only
equipment
one-
repair services, for instance, which would be
That's the one I'm a
special
little concerned.
permit.
I would rather
Permit.
that's, going through this list, I think that's the only one I really would like to see changed. Daggone it, why won't this right?
What
So-
about repair shop?
I think repair,
Oh, that was a yes anyways, it was by
Yeah.
right anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
I think we're okay with everything else. So I would just suggest, no, I gotta work on it, but thank you.
Just in case.
Oh, no, and trade shop was a special permit.
Yeah, but I'm okay with trade shop too.
Building or portion. Duct.
If you read the definition of trade shop, I don't think we have to worry about that.
No, yeah, probably not, no.
So,
And I don't
okay,
think,
so I'm okay with the merger,
Okay.
as long as we make that one change.
so repair shop and trade shop stay allowed use?
Objects, items.
Well, repair shop was allowed by right in retail commercial anyway.
Okay. And then,
Trade shop, I think I just put the special permit to encourage people to use the commercial zones that we have, because they tend to be more visible and populated.
and could we also add something about abutting residential versus not?
In what manner?
In the limitations? Can you limit a something in commercial that abuts residential versus something in commercial that abuts commercial?
Limit it in what way?
Setback.
Well, and I'm asking because I want to understand what the question is before I answer it, because, I mean, technically, we can try to limit anything.
Right.
And we may or may not get a caution from the Attorney General, and caution doesn't necessarily mean you can't do it, it just means
Well, I guess,
don't be dumb about it.
I guess I was specifically speaking about special permit or allowed use.
In what are we talking about? Sorry.
In commercial district abutting residents versus commercial district not abutting residents?
No, I think that's parsing it too much. And I think that we have to recognize that there's generally been a call for economic development. And that's such a nebulous and misunderstood term, that what I'm looking at and what I'm trying to do through this is to provide opportunities for businesses to locate in the most reasonable way that will hopefully be contextually sensitive to the areas where they're allowed. And we can mitigate individual instances through site plan approval, which was part of why I suggested we move to site plan approval as a first step before doing the uses, to formalize it and to give a little bit more teeth to it. The uses, the way they exist in the bylaw now, appear to be a collection of reactionary inclusions, mixed with some thoughtful outlining of we want this, that, and the other thing, but I think it's been an ad hoc collection instead of a comprehensive look at all of the districts and all of the uses. And I think that that's probably our first and best step to the economic development that this community has put forward as their desire. People want more business to serve their needs. They want a little bit of tax relief. They want it done in areas where it's appropriate and maybe where it already exists. And so instead of looking at a big fish and trying to attract a major office park or industrial use, it's streamlining the way that businesses are permitted as a first step. And then we can start to look at how we attract and retain and those sort of things. I mean, and if you disagree, if there's something that I'm missing about the general tone, we certainly can talk about that and try and
Well, I mean, I can certainly see situations where I agree with what Matthew's getting at. I'm not sure how we do with it. In my particular situation, it's usually with the solar stuff, right? As it abuts a residential area. But I could certainly see, like, if you take a look at some of the categories, like, what is it? Equipment sales. If your lot is abutting a residential area and you've got, huge earth-moving equipment that you're selling, that could be unsightly. I would I would like to see a special permit, you know what I mean? Instead of just a by right.
And that's fine, I can accept that, and I think, sorry,
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
well, the difficulty is, just as you were saying, where do you draw the line? What tool do you use? And how do you make that fair across the board? It's a difficult question, but.
And I think that in that instance, oftentimes, you don't only sell giant earth-moving equipment. You're selling a range of, bobcats up to the earth mover. And in the process of doing site plan approval, maybe there's a discussion and negotiation about what equipment is appropriate to locate where. The parking bylaw that we redid includes a 40-foot offset from a district line. So if you're abutting a residential use, you're in all likelihood abutting a residential zone. So you get that increased horizontal separation. There's the ability to provide screening through both constructed and natural methods. And all of that can sort of get
All that would come through.
sorted out as part of site
Through
plan.
site plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of what I was talking about with, even if it's by right, there's still some, there's some teeth, there's some control, there's some negotiation to the way
Sure.
sites are laid out. And
Without absolute regulation.
correct. And-
So, how do you feel about that, Matthew? Without the absolute regulation? I'm just curious.
Well, I think special permit gives total flexibility, and it gives the potential for the abutters to come in and make their piece, and I don't see why not. I think it's better than
Site plan review?
I think it's better than just giving them carte blanche saying it's allowed.
Right.
There is the potential for it to be allowed, and
So basically what you're saying is you'd like to see everything in commercial through the heavy commercial uses special permit.
well, I think the repair shop and the trade shop, I think, as we talked about before, makes sense to let them be, because they're more of an indoor, excluding automotive, right?
So you're talking the big equipment, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, we're boiling this down to 467 equipment sales should be special permit instead of Y.
And 465.
We already,
Well,
465, construction sales and service? Like a lumber yard?
No,
It's
it also
essentially-
says heavy equipment
it says heavy
supplies.
equipment, yeah.
I was gonna ask,
It excludes heavy equipment.
Oh, I'm
supplies.
sorry.
Construction
Was that-
sales and services are Mackey.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Specifically
Mackey's.
excluding automobile or heavy equipment supplies, sales, and rentals.
Sorry,
So-
let me go back.
go ahead.
Yep, you're right, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So just 467 and 468 become SP,
Correct, yeah.
commercial.
Okay. I did have one more comment regarding just the consistency of the terms. Heavy equipment is only used in 465, and 467 and 468, they use industrial equipment and construction equipment. So what is the difference between heavy? I think if we change heavy to commercial slash industrial, or just to make it more consistent that we're using the same terms.
Then why don't we call it industrial equipment?
Right, okay.
That's fine.
Instead of just heavy.
Because then industrial equipment is summarily defined through equipment repair and services, tools,
Right,
trucks, tractors,
right.
construction equipment, agricultural implements, and similar industrial equipment.
Right.
And then you can infer that industrial equipment
Industrial.
fits into that same category.
All right, so
Okay.
we're good with that.
That's on 465.
Correct.
Okay. Nice.
All right, so does that mean we're back on 465 down across the board? Actually, before we change topics again, just wanted to call attention to the previous recreational uses. We also now are granting by right commercial recreation and indoor entertainment in that location, which previously was special permit items.
Oh, yes. I think that,
I looked at commercial recreation and indoor entertainment, and I don't think either of those conflicts. I think there's actually an indoor entertainment location there now, right? Isn't
the puppet theater?
theater
Yeah,
considered indoor entertainment?
I would think so.
So I'm okay with commercial recreation and indoor entertainment being Y in that area, but I did want to bring it to others' attention just in case anyone else wanted to discuss it.
Oh, yes. Okay, I see. I'm with you now.
That's 441 and 442.
Yep. And what were those definitions? 441, 2.
It's
General
bowling
public.
alley, billiard hall, also,
Roller skating, sure. Yeah.
Water slides, miniature golf.
I'm all right with that.
games, Driving range.
we actually have an interesting conflict here. So commercial recreation and indoor entertainment. Commercial recreation excludes movie theaters and indoor entertainment includes movie theaters.
And
I guess we don't even need to mention movie theaters because it's gone from commercial recreation to outdoor.
No, it's, my notes say we put commercial outdoor entertainment and commercial indoor entertainment.
Correct. So I'm
For
saying
one.
commercial outdoor entertainment doesn't need to include movie theaters.
Yeah, it shouldn't, because then you're talking about drive-ins, and that's a whole
Commercial.
other animal, right?
Commercial indoor,
Yes, allows movie theaters.
okay, where, is it included in the outdoor?
It's prohibited
But
in the
not
outdoor,
movie theaters,
but
right?
Yeah,
It's
so
outdoor.
you already fixed these definitions, we just haven't got the new ones, right? Where
Correct. I mean,
You made the outdoor examples, actual outdoor examples.
Yes.
and so-
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta wait till I see
so I'll
that.
just remove the movie theater.
Okay.
What about an indoor gun range?
That could be an accessory use to a retail, couldn't it?
Potentially. I mean,
Also be a private club.
it could be.
I know they're not as popular here, but my brother lives in North Carolina and my dad in
I think
Arizona, and they're pretty prevalent.
I think
mean,
they're
their districts
growing in
have them
popularity.
right
They-
in
Yeah, there are a
strip
number of
malls.
them.
Well, because people are looking for more things to do in the wintertime. but-
Yeah, and I think they just opened one in Worcester in the last year or so.
Yeah.
Right off of
290,
290.
yeah.
There was one in Shrewsbury for a really long time.
You gonna work that into a definition?
Where
Want
do
me
we-
to?
Where do we cover sportsmen's clubs?
I don't know, I
Private
defer to
club.
the chair.
The sportsman's club is considered a private club?
Yeah, you pay a membership to be part of the Sportsman's Club.
Pay membership
For-
usually to go to an indoor gun range too.
No.
I think that
necessarily.
necessarily.
it's
You can-
it's a mixed
walk in.
bag.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, sportsmen's clubs will
Rent-
have them.
Rent guns and,
Yeah, there's some that are a commercial operation. I would say they're generally accessory use to retail.
That would come under commercial indoor entertainment, no?
If that was the only thing they did there, it would then depend on what their gross receipts were. So if they made the majority of their money selling guns and had that as a secondary, it'd be accessory use to. If they made the majority of their money on the range and had a couple of guns for sale on the side, then the commercial indoor recreation would be their primary, and the retail would be their secondary.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the majority of indoor ranges are accessory to sales, because the amount of paperwork to have all the guns you would need to be able to rent for a range, it probably is more profitable to become a federal firearms dealer than it is to just sell or to rent people guns that you have to then maintain. But
And we don't have any classification for gun shops specifically, right?
no, I would consider that as
Just a,
retail.
Standard
Yeah,
retail.
that would be
They-
retail.
The regulation on the inclusion of a gun store is pretty hefty. I can think of an instance that the ATF came to visit me because one of their license holders moved locations and absentmindedly failed to notify them. And it was kind of a thing.
Okay, so we are saying that that location that is currently retail commercial would be eligible for a gun shop and an indoor shooting range by right with this change. Without a special permit.
And a skating rink.
Moving targets.
Funny. Is everybody okay with that? Or would they like to see
Oh, can I see? I better take a look at the map.
commercial and indoor become special permit? It's this section of land right here. It's between, it's right here. It's from the, what used to be Center Pizza up to this
Oh, right.
person's property.
Right.
This whole section.
I
Yeah.
have to believe that there is some manner of separation requirement between an indoor firing range and a residence.
500 feet, isn't it?
You can't discharge a firearm within 500 feet of a residence. I don't know if there's special dispensation for a registered firing range.
Yeah, I think if they're indoors.
But there's also some design requirements for safety manner. I don't know that necessarily does much for the noise, which would, I guess, would be the one.
I mean,
And the reality is you would have the opportunity as part of site plan to say that they couldn't objectively meet the noise standards of not disturbing the surrounding properties, which is one of the objective standards, and there is the potential that a firing range couldn't or wouldn't be willing to invest the money to meet that standard.
sure, yeah.
And that would be an instance where a denial of site plan might be appropriate.
I mean, politically speaking, it seems a little nuts to have it, where it would be like right next to the puppet theater and between that and the kids' school. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like a good place to allow it.
I agree. I guess my concern is we're talking about maybe something that nobody's approached the town about.
Yeah.
And it falls into a category with all of these other items. If it's that much of a concern, perhaps we pull out firing range and create a separate definition for that and specifically exclude it from commercial indoor entertainment as a way of allowing all of the other uses covered under that to continue to move forward as a by right in the commercial and have the indoor firing range as a special permit.
Yeah. Okay, as a
Right,
special permit.
anything
yeah.
that includes the discharge of firearms would be a special permit.
Except for a club, you could have a regular outdoor club, correct? That would be a special permit anyway, so. Right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to
That might be the easiest
Yeah.
way to not
get around it,
restrict
yeah.
everybody else. So can you make that change, Adam? I think that's a good change. And then we're fine with 441 and 442 going to Y, because they'll exclude,
Gun ranges.
yeah,
Yeah.
firearms.
So they both will exclude firearms?
Yeah. And then we can just have a category for that, or an item.
Yep. You just gotta, like, again, you gotta watch the interplay with private club.
Well, we already have private clubs.
Well, I can tell you that in my mind, it's going to say something like indoor firing range, a facility open to the public for a fee, including the discharge of firearms
Okay.
at targets, whether handguns or rifles or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, my point was that, private clubs are not allowed in that zone, so,
Correct.
you see that,
Yep.
Ken? Okay.
Yep.
So where is the firearms that you're removing? 4.1 and 4.2 I thought we were talking about, and I don't see it in there.
It's not in there.
There isn't any in there.
But the discussion has been that both of them lend themselves to the potential that someone could open a commercial firing range
Okay.
within the realm of those definitions.
Okay.
And where they're allowed by right could be within an unacceptable distance of a residential zone or a residence. So rather than switch all of the uses that may be allowed in those zones to special permit, explicitly exclude firing ranges or the discharge of firearms as a part of the recreation from those two definitions, create a separate definition for commercial firing range, and then have that by special permit in the commercial zone with the inclusion of open to the public for a fee.
This is all so that we can fold the retail commercial into commercial.
Right.
And if it's open to the public for a
Yeah,
fee, it's
just-
not a private club.
Make sure he
Correct.
understands.
Yep. Then we can fold those in together and still not worry about
Yeah.
some certain, it's,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
Matt?
I guess so. I mean, it's just starting to seem like Big Brother to me. I mean, if you put special permit to something, then it has to go through all kinds of cross-checks. And if you don't include it, then it's not allowed. So, I mean, that's kind of limiting us to specific industry and business and economic development.
But the trouble is, if you don't list it, it's a by right. Because you could consider it, because indoor entertainment is an open definition. It's not exclusive to define every type of indoor entertainment. You can say that an indoor gun range is indoor entertainment. And so that's a by right in the commercial district. So if we do have a concern about it, and if the board doesn't want to have a concern about it, that's a position we can take too. But if the board does want to have a little bit more control about these indoor gun ranges that are popping up so that, people can go there and shoot guns just for fun.
Well,
The only reason,
Part of a sportsman's club or anything like that, just
the reason I
pay to, fire a machine gun because I've never done it.
I feel like I should explain it. The only reason I pulled that out is because the retail commercial zone is that area like around the puppet theater, between the school and, what is it,
Townsend Harbor.
Townsend Harbor Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
actually, it's a residence on the corner, but, yeah.
Yeah, so my concern was just what community reaction would be to, because we were talking about the gun ranges, which I don't have a problem with, except in the case where we're folding this in, this one little area in. I think, you know, that if someone were to choose that, and no one has, but I'm just saying that might be an awkward setting for it. That's all.
It might be, but to exclude it from all the rest of the existing commercial area, I think is a little bit overprotective.
No, I don't think we are.
No, we're
just
excluding
pulling
it
out the
from those
definition.
specific definitions, and it would be a special permit within the commercial zone.
Yeah.
Not just a special permit in that one piece of land. It'd be a special permit in any commercial zone, recognizing that it's a use that, while the board isn't necessarily opposed to it, certainly poses some challenges depending on where it's
Located.
proposed to be located.
Yeah.
Correct. It actually it actually allows us, I think, to have the commercial zone be less restrictive in general.
Correct, because it opens up those other
Other
commercial
uses as
recreational
bylaw.
uses in a way that including gun ranges would make people potentially uncomfortable with as a by right use.
Well, I guess if we're gonna look at it that way, I guess I would ask the chair if we could back up to the boat club thing. We're a lake town. We've got 3 major lakes and a minor lake, and all the lakes are Residence A, Residence B, and outlying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a commercial on Whalen, but that's already been used up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, wouldn't it make sense to have boat repair where the boats are? So you didn't have to stick them on a trailer and take them somewhere? I mean, to take your boat and pull
Have
up in
a
another
marina?
boat across the lake,
Have a marina on the lake?
place where you can get it fixed.
Well, you'd need commercial, you need commercial property there.
If that's the position the board wants to take, I'm okay with that. I kind of looked at where they were currently located. If I'm not mistaken, at least the one out in front of the police station has been there for a significant amount of time, a generation, if not 2. And if the location of boat repair where boats are used was that desirous, the location of that use most likely came about before zoning was so widely thought about and potentially would already exist on one of the lakes or both of the lakes.
There was one on Lake Shirley, but it went out of business.
Was that on Reservoir Road?
Yep.
Yep.
And it went out of business
And now
because
it's a regular residence now.
they retired or because they didn't.
I don't know the history of why it went on.
And again, I'm just trying to, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I
I always thought it'd
feel,
be a great place for a fuel pump and a clam shack, but it's residential. Because it'd be nice to be able to go someplace with a boat on Lake Shirley.
And pull up and get fuel up rather than
Yeah,
having
pull
to...
up and fuel up,
Yep.
pull your boat out to fuel up.
I can't imagine that wouldn't be an appealing thing for boaters, but
I mean, I guess
I'm not a boater, so...
what ultimately that comes down to as a potential issue, and I'd have to look at it further, is the floodplain and water supply overlay districts. Oftentimes, those 2 districts significantly restrict the storage of petroleum within Zone 2 or within a floodplain, just for the instance of potential conflict. But, I mean, if it's something the board wants to look at, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just kind of went along and looked at where they currently were and how that sort of fits in, knowing that our lake populations are increasingly vigilant about what happens along their shores and within their waters. I didn't think it was something that would be supported, but it's something we can certainly explore.
I am not on one of these lakes, so I don't feel comfortable without talking to people about it.
Well, I simply just wanted to bring it up it seemed to me a blatant thing similar to what we were talking about, the gun range. And then I will also mention that we have 2 spot zone commercial districts as 2 existing trailer parks. So anything that's allowed in the commercial district is going to be allowed in the trailer park.
I was gonna mention that too, and I don't think we have mobile home park in our definition, do we?
Nope.
Was that excluded on purpose or by accident?
No, that was,
Apparently, there's people in town that don't like mobile homes. There's 3 of them existing, I believe, right? There's one over on Whalen Road.
there's
Summer Street.
2 of them,
currently an express prohibition against mobile homes
Right.
in the bylaw.
even on personal property.
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
Unless it's an emergency.
I was gonna say, you are allowed I think up to a
Temporary.
year.
Yeah.
I think it's a year with up to a 1-year extension, in the instance of,
That changed, because in 2006, it was not allowed.
I remember
I just remember
discussing
when I
it.
built my house in 2006.
well, that's
I wanted
because you were
to-
building it, it's allowed for repair. So if you have a disaster at your house, you
Okay.
can pull the live-in trailer up front and be there while it's being repaired. And again, those spot zoned commercial spots, I think, should be taken care of when we do the map adjustments. My understanding is they were zoned that way as a potential exclusion of expansion or reuse of the parks as residential property. Whether that's the reality or not, I don't know. That's the anecdote that's been
Floated.
said to me several times.
Okay.
So those would just get converted back to outlying district, you mean?
That would be my recommendation.
So, back to
Unless
the-
they, oh, I'm sorry.
Can we just go back to the gun thing for a second? So are we not going to break that out just because, I'm just curious. I mean, because I'm not glued to it, it's not like I'm not anti-gun, what do you call it, range.
I
But-
think I was the only one resistant. I think everybody else was fairly with you with that.
Okay. I just,
Yeah, I mean, all the ones I've seen have been just basically in a strip mall. You can't hear them from the outside. There are probably fears that go along just because of the fact that they're firearms and
so we don't have to break it up. I mean, I just wanted to bring it up because it was a weird location.
But if they've
Holding in.
been popping up, there's a reason for it. It's popularity, it's demand, right?
Yeah?
Again, I'll say, and I don't have a dog in the fight, I think that either way, they can get permitted, and I think that we can do a job being mindful about how they're permitted. Special permit isn't saying we don't want it, it's saying that we recognize that there's a potential, real or perceived, that people will have an issue with some manner of how it's located, and it gives that extra ability to look at and condition the use and location. It's not perfect, and it's certainly something that if everything is a special permit, I see as a problem, but if specific things are located by special permit, it's recognizing that we don't want to tell people you can't do that, but that we want to have the ability to shape it in a
Right,
more,
so over the control-
in a more thoughtful and public way.
Yep.
So, let me know what you want to do with that. I'll sort of craft a definition and we can kind of talk about it if you'd like.
I wish I would have more, felt more strongly
Passionate.
more passionate about it. I just brought it up for discussion purposes, so, I can go either way with it. I just thought that because, in that effort to fold that zone into the other zone, I just wanted to play devil's advocate and think about, what it's currently abutting,
And we have plenty of commercial land that abuts residential property. Maybe some of it's developed, maybe some of it isn't, but there's going to be conflicts when those two zones come together, and it's managing that conflict and
I have-
what's the most appropriate way to do it.
I have 2 kids in the school system, and when 2 years in a row at that school, and not that this is just anecdotal, something I'm sharing. I'm sure it was a hunter. Someone was out there, right, with their shotgun. And, you know, the kids came home with their big stories of the day, you know, that the cops came and they investigated and everything. You know, it's like you see a gun around a school, woo-hoo, you know. So it's awfully close to the school. I just thought that, you know, it made sense to sort of break it out in that location. But if we're folding it in, how do we handle that? That was my, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Sorry.
Is this something we want to asterisk and get back to and
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
let Adam rework?
I think we should be able to finish up the use table tonight.
No, I just meant the gun.
Yeah, well, I guess what I
So we can
Recommendation
move
stands, which is create its own definition and then
Would
put
be
it
a-
as special permit in.
Would it be under commercial uses rather than heavy commercial?
I'd stick it in recreation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it fits in there a little bit better. What I'll do is I'll put it together and I'll stick it in there.
Okay.
And look at it next time and see how it feels, think about it, you know,
Fair enough.
talk to your friends, talk to your wives, see what they think.
I do the same thing with my friends on the lakes.
So are we back to construction sales and service now, or?
I thought we had
still having
settled that.
Sideline conversations.
Is everybody good with?
So here's what I have. I have construction sales and services as a yes because it eliminates the industrial equipment. Contractor yard, equipment sales, equipment repair, fuel service, outdoor storage and display, which is actually going to be an accessory. So it's going to come out of there, but it'll be an accessory by special permit. All by special permit. Repair and trade are wise.
Correct.
Should we, sorry to go back to this, but for consistency, change machinery to industrial equipment?
Where are we talking here?
466 contractor yard.
466.
Contractor yard.
I think that would fall under it just says machinery, new or used.
Machinery. Yeah, you would say industrial equipment.
Just to keep it consistent.
Yep. Consistency is good.
Consistency. You can't
Yeah,
eat
who needs
that.
it?
Oh, it's just, you know,
No, that makes total sense. So now we're into
It's
industrial.
his first official act. Come on, give him a break.
start signing executive orders here.
Can I get a raise?
Yeah. Sure, you.
1,000%
I'll double your
raise.
salary. You fell right into that one.
Hey, what about me?
I'll double yours too.
All right, so industrial uses. We've talked about eliminating commercial solar.
I'm sorry, can we go back to under heavy commercial use? All of those are also CSPs, or they're not?
Yes, anything that's
Okay.
an SP is a CSP in the
Okay.
commercial. Or an
Or an
SP in the
SP
2A.
in 2A. Oh, okay, thank you.
So we eliminated commercial solar because we said that we were gonna, it was a little sloppy, all by itself hanging out there and didn't play with the solar. And
Yeah.
we're talking about looking at that as our next big tackle.
Okay.
So we're into distribution.
Distribution. Okay, distribution, storage, sales.
Which is super fancy warehousing. So it's more of a hub, storage, wholesale, shipment, movement, manufactured products, supplies, equipment, excluding bulk storage of materials that are inflammable or explosive, or present hazardous or conditions commonly recognized as offensive.
Really? What is commonly recognized as
Okay.
offensive?
Well, I have a friend that started doing this a few years ago. Started storing, like, for the winter, bring your Harley, your car, whatever it is, they'll wrap it up, you know what I mean? Tuck it away in a zone inside of a building,
Okay?
inside of an industrial building. Would that qualify because it's got
Yes.
gasoline, oil?
You don't want to store it with gasoline in it.
Yeah, believe when they did the storage, it had to have like, they had certain condition, they'll have like less than a quarter of a tank
Yeah.
or something like that.
I think that,
Anyone will tell you the fumes are what'll explode, not the actual liquid.
It's true.
I don't think
Can
that
we
that
change-
would be, can we change what?
Can we change offensive to hazardous or environmentally hazardous or something
Mm-hmm.
like that,
Or that present.
instead of offensive?
That was my way of banning pornography warehouses.
I was wondering.
I'm joking.
Hazards. Can't have any, what is it, prurient hazards?
No, let's keep it clean, guys.
I assume you're trying to prevent like fertilizer.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want
Yeah.
chemical storage.
Oh, okay,
And,
yeah.
you know,
That's
come
why-
store your 575,000 gallons of oil.
Yeah.
Keep it warm for the winter. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's allowed in industrial.
Industrial park.
Primarily for distribution though, right?
It's kind of all of them. I mean, storage falls in there.
Well, it says excluding bulk storage of the bad stuff, but,
And yes,
okay.
And
so we're not going to get a tank farm of, you know, noxious chemicals.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if something comes through, like a car that has a quarter tank of gas in it, that's not bulk storage.
okay, I see. Good. All right. And that's also available in Summer Street?
In the industrial, so that'd be an IY.
It's already in there as I was.
So I want-
And that's it, that's all I have, right?
That's all you have?
Yep.
That's all she wrote?
It's gonna be an OPI and it's an SS.
Yes, OPI
Okay.
and SS. Most of these are just going to be OPI and SS.
Okay.
Are we on industrial parks?
Sure.
I recall the larger parcel zoning for the village center district. What was that? That was
It was campus style,
campus?
yes.
Now, would that include something similar to an industrial
No.
park? No? Okay.
Because it wouldn't have industrial buildings. And it wasn't separate lots, it was multiple buildings on a singular large lot.
But
And that,
used it in the conjunction with that.
well, that I have in the design standards for the districts, as within the village district design standards, allowing the campus-style development, and the conditions that go along with it.
Can, on 474 and 475, can we make some consistency around the odor, dust, smoke, gas, noise, radiation, et cetera?
Yes.
'Cause one says it's not objectionable, and the other one says it doesn't violate any standard.
Okay, so I think we'll take the objectionable.
So can we just make them both consistent?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the 474 and just move that wording into 475.
Okay. Okay, and just out of curiosity, why did we say the research establishment had to be a special permit where manufacturing was by right in the industrial area?
When I think of research establishment, I think that there's probably a bigger spectrum of what could land than manufacturing. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I guess I was thinking the potential for biologic research, and, you know, the various federal levels of that, and a level 1 lab wouldn't be anything, a level 4 lab, you're kind of like, well, do I want Ebola that close to residential, or does it really need to be out in, in the woods somewhere?
Next to the gun range in the plaza. One-stop shopping.
We call that the fun part of town.
Jeepers.
So that was my thinking. I guess manufacturing certainly does have the potential to bring
Gotcha.
some pretty nasty stuff, but, and unfortunately, research, again, runs such a large gamut that I felt it was,
No, okay, it makes sense now. Thank you. So I'm okay with all the industrial uses as they're flagged
I
with
am
the
too.
minor edits that we talked about.
So then the Summer Street would be special permit.
correct, ISP.
Yeah, that would, right.
ISP.
Yes.
SP. You got that, right?
I
Under SS should be also
Yeah,
special. permit.
yeah, those are all wrong, and Adam's gonna fix them all.
Grover can do it.
Okay, are we on to other uses?
We
Yes.
are.
Chair?
So,
Agriculture, we want to allow that in this town?
I don't know. I hemmed and hawed about it.
Well, by the state law, I don't think you can restrict it anywhere.
Why is there a special
Right.
permit in,
I don't know why it is.
OBR.
I have that crossed out.
What's it, PBR? What?
the limited business residential is
Yeah,
special permit?
it's a
It should be
Y. I think it was special permit before, and I copied it over, either that or when I moved something around, it got,
And we excluded it in Village Center District.
yeah, I think just by product of the size of the area.
Isn't that where we have our farmers markets?
The farmer's market's not agricultural use though, is it?
No, it's not.
Agriculture sales?
And honestly, it doesn't matter, it's just gonna be Y across the board, because if you meet the standards, you meet the standards, and we don't have a leg to stand on to stop someone.
Okay,
And we are right to farm.
so on agriculture sales and service,
And now this is,
that's special permit every place.
yes, this isn't selling your vegetables that you grew, this is selling all of the bits you need to run your farm. Grain,
Right.
hose, tractor, stuff like that. Not farm machinery, I'm sorry.
So not farm machinery?
Correct.
So then
This
why-
includes this includes food sales and farm machinery repair services that are accessory to the principal use, yes, so you can buy your tractors there.
So then, again, it would be along the same lines in my mind as having a boat repair shop on the lakes. It would make sense to have agricultural sales and service in the outlying district, to me.
Which we do
By special permit.
by special permit.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I would think that it would be a by right use, but
Well, I guess if I look at it, the outlying comprises both farms and very large, very expensive houses. And depending on where it goes would sort of depend on the appropriateness of it being located in the outlying. And I understand the dichotomy of the community and the need for this to be near the farms, but I also think we have to recognize that both populations exist, and we need to be sensitive to locating a facility like this in an area that has both farmers and,
all right, I'm going to put my foot down here. I'm just going to make a statement. I'm not demanding anything, but this is an agricultural community. It has been since I was born, and not everybody, a lot of people move here because they like the rural nature and the agricultural uses. And since I've been on AgCom, involved with it since they were incepted in town, there has been a plethora of people coming and saying, wow, I moved into these beautiful farms and they stink and they've got animals and yuck. Well, you know what? All those beautiful fancy homes that are in the outlying district,
we're on farms.
they're built on farmland.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to make this point to the public.
And I respect that and I understand it, but I also think that this use is even outside of agriculture in a way. It's not part of the right to farm. It supports the farms, and it's important to have, and I just think that
It does specifically say accessory to the repair service that are accessory to the principal use.
correct, the principal use of sale or rental of farm tools and implements, feed, grain, tack, animal care products, farm supplies, agricultural machinery, equipment, and supplies for the use in soil preparation and maintenance, the planting and harvesting of crops, and other operations and processes pertaining to farming and ranching. So the repair is accessory to all of those as the primary use.
Okay.
So
Sales
you
and
can
service.
sell your John Deere and you can repair whatever tractors
Okay.
people bring in
It's like-
as an accessory use, but you can't go and open up tractor repair and say, oh, I'm agricultural sales and services.
No, it's just like retail, it's just like car repair is
Correct.
accessory
Right.
to car sales.
Correct.
And if it were if it were actual farming, I wouldn't have any problem, obviously, yes, but,
Well, actual farmers, they're not subject to the bylaw, so.
right. But
Right.
I'm just saying,
That
But it
kinda-
does
this
include
is-
feed and grain. I mean, a lot of farmers sell their hay, they,
Yep.
it's silage.
But again, if they're growing the hay on site, that's all folded in under MGL.
I think the special permit definition is fine.
I think so,
I'm not
too.
sure I see any issue with that.
Okay.
Just a general question, the right to farm was adopted at town meeting, so.
Correct.
All the residents voted and said, this is what we want.
All
Okay.
50 of them.
I was gonna say, the 76 people who showed up at that town meeting.
I voted no. No, I'm just kidding.
It was established as the will of the town that
Yes.
this is what
Yes,
we wanted.
yes,
and-
yes.
Okay.
I think adopting AgCom was that as well. wasn't it?
Well, the creation of the AgCom is a requirement of right to farm. So they're inexplicably linked.
Right.
So the only thing on 482 is, of course, Summer Street, Route
Yes.
2A, gotta fix those. Now, earth fill, this one I'm curious about.
I thought we were gonna change earth fill.
So earth fill is by right in
That's-
all the districts, which means
Yeah, that's not right.
that I can just like start pulling fill out of my property and selling it?
Didn't you just say at
No,
town
that's-
meeting that we wanted to
Yeah.
change this to a,
Pulling it under the
A unique-
planning board.
I thought they
No,
pulled that.
that's earth removal.
Well, there's earth
Oh.
fill and removal, but they're both graded exactly the same way.
sorry.
Yeah, that actually, those are wrong.
Okay.
That's essentially what it comes down to. I would say at a minimum, they'd be special permit in the residence. And I don't even know if I would recommend allowing them as a primary use in those areas. Now, when we talk about earth removal, we are talking about the use of the property being mining. So we're talking about Keating. We're not talking about, I bought this piece of property, I came to the town, I got a site plan approval to build my new fidget spinner factory, and when I went to dig the foundation, I found out, holy cow, I have this amazing gravel. I needed to dig it out for my foundation anyway, I'm now gonna truck it off-site and sell it. That's preparation of site in conjunction with another permit. Cannot be regulated by earth removal bylaws. So this is you coming in and saying, you see that hill over there? I'm gonna rip it down, I'm gonna crush it up, and I'm gonna sell it.
So accessory is okay, primary is not.
Well, and it's not even an accessory, it's part of site preparation.
Okay.
If you went in and said, oh, well, I need to dig, 6 feet down to put my foundation in, and you're like, oh, it's great gravel, I'm gonna dig 12 feet down and bring in other material, then you get into a hinky area.
Okay.
And oftentimes contractors will come into an area like that and say, oh, wow, look at that, and they'll lower the elevations by a foot or two.
Yeah.
And that is
That's-
allowed.
Yeah, that's all still part of site preparation. But there is case law that allows that.
Okay.
And earth fill is the issue that they have down in Uxbridge right now. I don't know if you've read any of that in the paper.
No.
You should go look it up, it's fun reading. But they had a couple of sites where people were actually trucking in, I believe they called it lightly contaminated soil, to fill sites in. They were trucking them in from other places with the intent of, I think, using them as fill that would be cleaned in some way. And so it was kind of a problem. Oftentimes, Earth fill can be done by special permit as part of site preparation. Because if you bring fill in, there's certain conditions that you'd have to follow to fit into doing it properly. And, it has to be brought in this, compacted in lifts of so many inches or feet. The soil has to come from X, Y, Z. And so I threw it in there. I gave a very brief definition. And as we talk about it, I would suggest that we dial the definition into that sort of area if you'd like. And at that point, I would say we'd do it as a special permit, and we would do it, anything over, generally it's like 500 cubic yards is the trip for needing the special permit.
Okay.
And they would consider anything between 50 and 500 requires a building permit, and anything under 50 is just, you're just kind of bringing some dirt in.
So you're gonna update these definitions?
Yeah,
to include those sizings?
Well, the earth removal, we have a bylaw currently.
Okay.
Which, as part of the town meeting action, is going to become the planning board's onus. And it's a general bylaw. So anyone who performs earth removal is required to meet those standards.
Okay.
Within the earth removal bylaw. And, the more I think about it, I don't know that earth fill is necessarily a use. Perhaps I'll put together an earth fill general bylaw, and we'll take it out of the table.
Okay, so we can wait on these on the,
Yeah, let's take it out of the table,
okay, take it out of the table.
because I agree with you. That doesn't seem like it really belongs.
Well,
Fill
yeah,
and removal?
there was the fill,
I would leave removal in there as a use,
Oh, okay.
and reference the requirement for general bylaw, special permit.
So it's a special permit across the board then, instead of the yeses?
Yeah.
because the earth fill, I know, in Littleton, there was a guy who received a lot of the dirt from the Big Dig. I mean,
Yeah.
his nickname was Joe Dirt, and they filled in hundreds of acres of, probably close to 100 acres. Truck after truck after truck,
For what reason?
just because he
Gets
had,
paid
he had, the-
to
well, he
take
had the.
Just to have dirt?
He
No, he got paid to take the dirt.
take it.
He
I
had
see.
100 acres, so
Sure, just dump
fill
it.
it in, right, exactly. And it wasn't for construction purposes,
Yeah.
it was just basically.
Just Mount Joe.
He
Put it out there.
Yeah, I know a guy who
cleared
did that
the
too.
woods and,
Well, isolated wetlands aren't protected by the state either.
Correct.
Unless the local
Right.
bylaw protects them, so they could have filled that in.
right, so, but they would still have to go through the conscom. for
Yeah, and-
any
and
action.
Earth
Near
fill,
wetland.
earth fill would then just, anything over the 500 cubic yards would require them to
Okay.
kick into a special permit. And I would say you probably only want to allow earth removal as a primary use. I guess it could be special permit anywhere. Yeah. I think of gravel operation in a residential neighborhood, and it just sounds so distasteful. But I guess there are plenty of places around where that would qualify, where there's a large parcel that may have appropriate gravel and may not be as impactful as if they went down West Street and started graveling.
That's what they're doing at Pierce Tree Farm.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the stuff that I'm thinking about. And even if you get out onto, Burridge Street or Arbor Road or some of those areas, there's still some large lots out there that might have
Decent.
reasonable gravel, and if they're granted the special permit, then, the controls can be done through there as far as hours and whatnot. So kennel?
SP in Whalen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not a Y.
CSP.
CS.
Oh, it's SP all around, actually.
Yeah. Any facility maintained by...
So no kennels in limited business? Residential?
No.
No. At least not per my proposal.
So if you've got 3 dogs, then you're a kennel.
If you are...
The boarding, breeding, raising, grooming, or training The boarding, so if you own them, are you technically boarding them?
Not owned by the owner.
That are not
Okay.
By
owned
the owner or occupant of the premises.
And/or for commercial gain.
So if your dog's sitting more
You
than
get 12
three,
dogs, it's okay.
if your dog's sitting more than three
As
dogs.
long as you don't breed and sell any puppies.
Actually, I don't think that's true. I think there's something else in town that says that you can only have
Most towns, it limits it like to
two or
4
three- I think
adult
it's three.
animals.
3 adult animals, yeah, 3 dogs, yeah, I think.
Well, if you are breeding to sell, then that is a kennel.
Yep.
Well, and then training, couldn't that be a service?
It could be.
And grooming?
Grooming could be a service.
You want to get them out of kennel?
I'm
Those
wondering.
are kind of accessory to what you're doing as, yeah, so just take them out.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, you kind of walk a line.
Boarding, grooming, and training are not breeding and raising, which is what a kennel is. Boarding, grooming, and training is what we've approved on Electric Ave.
Right.
No.
Yes.
Oh, well, boarding, yes, I guess we did approve boarding. It was
Across
boarding.
street.
Yeah, yeah, I was,
And it was
Yeah,
grooming,
yeah.
too.
it was grooming. I guess if we're gonna go in that direction, I think grooming and training, I can get behind taking out. I think the boarding part,
Right, for the noise.
should remain,
Yeah.
Okay.
because,
Because they weren't keeping them overnight.
And that is,
correct.
They would
That's-
drop off and pick up
Yeah.
throughout the day.
overnight boarding can be,
Training cats.
problematic.
Right. And, I mean-
For residents
Funny.
that live nearby.
and technically it is kenneling,
Yes.
right? So.
So
boarding.
if you want to take out
Dogs,
grooming,
cats, or other household pets?
training, yeah. I think that's more of a catch-all, so that if somebody decides they're going to be the regional potbelly pig boarding facility, that they don't sort of skirt around the definition by saying, well, I'm a service because it doesn't say anything about pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wouldn't that be an agricultural use?
Not a potbelly pig if it's people's pets. I'm going,
But no, I'm saying under a kennel, if they're breeding and raising some sort of,
Well, farm can raise pets for sale.
no, but that's what I mean.
they're on
I think
5 acres
Right.
or more.
Adam's saying that
Well, that's agriculture.
you can't.
Correct, that's
you
what I'm-
can't
that's what I mean.
Get past it with the agricultural
Okay, yeah, I just,
And you could also
argument.
be breeding puppies on an acre and a half.
Yeah, could.
You don't really need a lot of room for the dogs to do their thing.
So grooming and training is out?
That, I would say grooming and training would be what I can get behind removing.
and would we add that to service? Or is that already in there somewhere?
It might not be in there explicitly, but I think that you could draw a correlation that grooming and training are services.
Thought we were talking about oil change.
Okay.
Yeah.
On oh boy, the veterinary hospital. You saved the best one for last, didn't you?
I do my best.
We went over this like a year or two ago. I think we were discussing what happens if you have an emergency with a horse, and
Horse doctors usually come to you, don't they?
Yeah.
they usually do, but in those circumstances when it might need, some kind of specialized
Horse
care,
surgery.
some kind of specialized care, what do? It's not in the, you know what I mean? So they might need a facility for that, like the occasional large animal,
It's a large animal veterinary hospital.
I was going to say, I not being a purveyor of large animals, I'm going to make some general inferences that most veterinary hospitals aren't going to be equipped to handle anything larger than like a goat.
Okay.
And again, I'm speculating, but we had a doctor in here a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And she essentially said, I'm taking a storefront.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it my veterinary hospital.
Yeah, no, I just think, Just going along with what Matthew was
So
saying.
you're saying maybe make a
about-
provision for large animal
Well,
veterinary
yeah,
hospital?
because, in a farming community, I'm sure there are a number of draft horses and,
Sure.
large cattle and
Yeah.
that you might need some sort of facility. Someone might see that as a niche and say, I'm going to open up a large animal, facility where they can drop them off and rehabilitate them or something like that, under constant care. Something like that. Like they have, I don't know if you've ever been to Tufts, but,
Yeah.
oh, man.
I used to live right down by
Yeah.
there.
That's
That's
what Tufts
quite the
is.
place.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much where everybody goes.
Well, I'm just saying. That's fine. If
Well,
that's
and
the way you
I
wanna see
guess
it.
I would look at Matthew and ask if he thinks it's a reasonable expectation that that's something that someone may want to do.
Well, what about like an MSPCA? They have a host of all different animals, large, small. You go to Nevin's Farm in Methuen, they have everything.
Well, veterinary hospital kind of implies that it's a veterinarian.
Right.
Correct.
A licensed veterinarian. So this is going to exclude anybody that's not a licensed veterinarian.
Correct.
Well, all right, let me give you a for instance. A veterinarian who is also a farmer. Has facilities, wants to practice out of his farm. Bring your horse here.
Sure. I totally get where you're going,
Yeah.
and I understand the situation that you're asking about.
You just don't want to shut anybody out in the community
Sure.
who might be thinking along those lines, that's all. But,
And I mean, would you prefer to add a secondary use or include large animal allowed, include large animal, and since it's all special permit, just fold in the outlying residential zone by special permit? Are you talking about having,
I would think
two
maybe,
parallel definitions or including it into the one definition?
no, I think you might want a large veterinarian, large animal veterinarian facility or something like that.
But as in the scenario that you proposed, it would be a farm and he would be exempt from the bylaw and he could do it.
Oh, okay, that's fine, yeah, that's fine.
Because it covers commercial,
That's right.
anything commercial.
It would be a farm. Okay, never mind then, thank you.
So, hopefully I will try to remember to bring this up at AgCom on Thursday.
Okay.
And get their input as well.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'll get out the accessory use, design standard, overlay district stuff. We can start banging our heads on the desk over that. And then I'll neaten this all up and send it back around.
Good.
The accessory dwelling, just going back to that.
You're a glutton tonight.
I
My foundation
actually
is
appreciate
poured.
the fact that he goes back over it, because sometimes we miss things.
I just, on 421K, why do we have that restriction? If you buy a house and you want your mother-in-law to live with you, why can't you buy the house and
just
then
gotta
get a
chill.
permit?
Yeah.
I was trying to give you some breathing room so that you could
Just saying.
think about it.
It seems really silly that we would
That,
put a one-year moratorium on it.
this is a carryover from what exists.
Can we
So
just take K away? Does anyone see a reason for it?
We've already taken away 1 and 2 from L, but I think that was because they were,
1 and 2 from L actually went up to H.
okay.
But then you decided that they
We got rid of
they
H.
got rid of them anyway, so it didn't matter. I'm
It was all Ken's fault.
Hey, look, I was just trying to read it.
I don't, yeah. It's very
Well,
hard.
I've had to revisit it multiple times.
how about instead of deleting K, no permit for accessory housing granted hereunder shall take effect sooner than, and then take out the 1-year occupancy primary. Sooner than the owner petitioner records the authorization in the applicable registry of deeds at his own expense, her own expense.
Ooh, standard boilerplate stuff, I love it.
Permit shall be granted.
So does that mean you just can't move into the accessory dwelling before someone's?
No, it means you have to own the property legally before you
For a
can
ye- yeah.
apply for accessory dwelling.
Oh,
I'm fine with that, I just didn't want the 1-year wait period on it, it just seems really silly.
So
Right.
it doesn't matter if you've owned it, so if you get the permit, you have to have it recorded before you can.
Correct.
That's all.
Well, that's what I'm saying now, taking out the 1 year after occupancy of the primary dwelling.
Right, then one, right,
Correct.
right, exactly, so that makes sense.
Taking out the 1 year.
Good catch.
And also the nor.
Yes. And the "than" would stay in there. No sooner than,
And then I will,
and the "nor" until comes out.
The rewrite.
Did you say you look forward to the rewrite?
I was looking forward to the rewrite.
Good summer reading?
Man. Give us another
While I
chance to
sit in my
shoot.
accessory building, I will read it.
All right, so that gets us through the use table.
And are we expecting discussion on this at our next meeting, 2 meetings?
I would expect, we'll see. I think that probably more likely we'll start into the other stuff before the next meeting.
Okay.
Because I'm closer to having that done than this.
Okay, but there will be bylaw
Yeah, there'll be
discussion.
something.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're all prepared. Okay, is that it for definitions?
That's what I have for definitions and use table.
Notices and communications? I don't think we had anything scanned.
No,
All right, moving on.
it's been a slow month.
Yeah, moving on to meeting schedule. We'll meet the 12th, that's the public hearing for the Verizon poll.
Yes.
And then June 26th, we have nothing. Have we received anything regarding the car wash yet?
I believe that got walked in today. It hasn't been reviewed. It was
Excuse me.
probably about 3:30 when they walked in, so.
Okay.
I expect that'll be a June 26th.
All right,
Oh, although, June 12th, that'll be a double hearing.
all right.
Someone's running in for public comment, I think.
All right, is there any more public comment from the public? Ongoing items, complete streets, 40B update.
Yep. The 40B update looks like we most likely won't be getting safe harbor, or if we would have gotten it, it would be expiring already anyway. So the time that the approvals came were within the past year. It doesn't look like they would have been 2 years, but I haven't gotten a firm answer on that.
Okay, just not to put pressure on you, but when would you expect something on that?
I can't nail that down, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Moving on to board comments and concerns. Does anyone have any board comments and concerns?
I have a, go ahead,
No, I don't think so.
I need
Go
to-
ahead.
Well, the recent entertainment license granted to the 300 Holman, which was the previous Lane property, they're going to have an open house on June 3rd from, I hope I get this right, 10 to 1, where they're going to have a walkthrough, they're going to have a discussion, show and tell, they're going to show off the property and have a lot of information about the previous tenants, which is a precursor to their kickoff for the build-up for the fair, for the festival. So again, that's 300 Holman Street, June 3rd. They're going to have an open house, the old Lane property.
I have a question on that. I think they're also renting an apartment there, correct? What is the
I
process to
don't-
rent your accessory dwelling? Is there anything that you have to go through for that?
I don't believe there's anything that you need to do to rent it, you just have to legally have an accessory dwelling unit.
So the reason I ask is because I know of another accessory dwelling unit that was down on Farmhouse Road, I think it's called, at the end, Smith's property. And it was a full-blown accessory unit, but it was not allowed to be rented to the public. It could only be used for an in-law or family type arrangement. And so I was curious why we have a restriction on some properties can't be rented to the public and others can.
That, I would have to circle back with the building inspector. My understanding of the way the zoning is written, if you have a legal accessory unit, there's no qualification on who can live there.
Okay. And there's no permit required to rent it?
I wouldn't imagine so.
Okay.
Oftentimes, when people permit accessory dwellings, they do so with interplay of the primary dwelling and don't put what would be legal fire separation between the units. So by having somebody live in the accessory unit, you're essentially just creating an additional space within your primary unit. I don't
In
know.
both of these cases, they're completely separate buildings.
Oh,
They're not
then-
attached to the primary building.
Then I'm somewhat surprised that
Yes, I'm just curious,
that would
because
be
they
the
both
issue.
claimed identical, and I know one was denied for ability to rent, and the other one is renting. So I was just curious why.
Yeah, I will check on that. I don't know if the previous building inspector had a different interpretation, or there was some precedent set that he was aware of that I'm not, but I don't believe that there's anything that prevents that.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
I do have two things. Just I had called the office this morning inquiring. I saw on the agenda of the Personnel Committee that there was an addition of a local building inspector. There's some discussion regarding that, and I was wondering what the status of our search is, and
Still searching.
can we get a little more detail? Why are they adding a local building inspector?
We're expanding our options.
Okay.
Currently, we have a building commissioner and a part-time stipend local. And I mean, when I say part-time, it's in the instance that an inspection is needed and the building commissioner is unavailable, the local inspector would be requested to do so. They don't hold regular hours, week after week. They could go 2 months without being called upon. They could be called upon a couple of times in a week. We have found that we've had very limited response from qualified commissioners, and we're exploring our options on how to move forward.
Okay, and I know our current zoning commissioner has
Our
limitations.
Our current commissioner is a
I don't
is a
wanna go into
retired commissioner who is currently helping us out, and he's a longtime public employee, has a public retirement package, and there are certain limitations on hours and wages associated with that. And quite honestly, there's no definite commitment to any long-term employment on his part.
Right.
So
So at some point, he's gonna max out on his hours and his ability to...
it's potential. He hasn't been working in a way that would max him out
Okay.
anytime soon. But what we're looking to do is ensure that we do the widest reasonable search possible and select a candidate that's going to be appropriate for the community, for the government structure that we have, for the people involved in the day-to-day operation. And I think in the previous 2 advertisings, we've had, I think, less than 5 responses. And less than 5 qualified responses.
Mhm. And do you see, you've done this more than me, so is there a reason why we didn't get qualified applicants, or?
I think we're
That kind of
kind of in a
thing?
tough spot, geographically more than anything. Our pay scale is not unreasonable. It's not extraordinary. It's not awful. But we don't pay enough to draw from the east.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's a lot to the west that we're going to entice. I think that we're probably in the same general pay scale as most of the towns that are in a reasonable driving distance. Once you head south, I think that we're probably, it would be kind of a lateral step. So outside of somebody who's looking to get out of a community, it's tough to really pull a commissioner. It's a job that you can get pretty comfortable in, and the longer you're in a community, I don't want to say it's easier, but the zoning side of things certainly becomes a little less hairy, because you start to know the ins and outs and the intricacies of bylaws, and the code is the code is the code wherever you are. So whether you're in Pepperell or West Boylston or Blackstone, the building code's the same. You're just then dealing with zoning and personalities. And we're limited on where we pull from. If you go to Worcester, your radius of what's drivable and somebody who's currently working in Massachusetts certainly increases, because there's just more around. So I think what we're exploring is the potential of hiring a local and having an interim commissioner or a part-time commissioner with the hope of growing a local into a commissioner with some guidance and doing a little bit of a longer-term transition.
So if we were just looking for a building inspector, we'd probably have a bigger pool to draw from, but since it's a zoning commissioner, we would need someone with experience and probably a longer history than...
It's not zoning commissioner. There's local inspector and there's building commissioner. So local inspector requires 3 tests through the BBRS and some standard experience. Commissioner requires 5 tests and some standard experience. So oftentimes, to qualify for the commissioner's test, you need a wider range of experience. To qualify for the local inspector's test is a more limited series of construction experience. And you learn some of the intricacies of the commissioner's job being a local, and then you qualify to take those tests. So it's kind of a swap, and it becomes something that we have to decide what we can live with, who applies, and what we can reasonably get from it.
Okay.
So it is a moving target. We may find a commissioner that's qualified and appropriate in this next round, and they may be the person we hire. We may only find a local, and then we figure out how that works on an operational basis.
All right, yeah, just from what I've seen and from what I've heard, Mr. Rhodes does a good job.
Oh, he's fabulous.
It's unfortunate that he's unable to take the full-time position, so...
Don't know that he would say the same thing.
For us, from our
Yes.
standpoint, so I just wanted some clarification and some... Go right ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, on that same topic, have we looked at the talent bank, and do we have any opportunity to fill our vacant seat?
I have to, I think you may be the only veteran of the last time this happened. I know you were the selected applicant, but I believe the Board of Selectmen will advertise the vacancy.
Okay.
And solicit applications.
Okay.
And then the applicants will be vetted at a joint meeting of this body and the Board of Selectmen, and majority rules.
Okay.
Right.
I believe that you have the opportunity to speak with the candidates first, but I don't recall.
I don't think it's a majority rules. But
It is a majority rule.
From what I
There's
understand,
the majority of the 9 voting.
Really?
I did read into that. Yeah, we actually do, since Damon did tender his resignation, we do have to inform the Board of Selectmen that we're short a member so that they can start the process. And from what I was told, that we do, all 9 members sit down and...
Yeah, interview them collectively?
Right,
Okay.
right, and come to a
So
consensus.
who will be doing the notification? You, for office?
I believe
Or
the
does
town
the chair do
manager.
it?
I think it's done through the Board of Selectmen.
No, who informs the selectmen?
Oh, I'll inform them.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
My one other, 9 Electric Avenue, do we have any update or more of a detailed update other than we're working on?
They are reassessing what they're doing.
Okay,
Mr. Rhodes and I met them on site with their property manager, their general contractor, their landscaper, and their engineer, and the 2 owners. And we discussed their options, where they were, what was happening, and it certainly appears as if they are putting together a resubmission.
okay.
What the time frame on that is, I don't want to speculate, only because I know I've spoken with their engineer in the past, and he's talked about how understaffed their office is, especially in the surveying area, and how many projects they have waiting to move forward. In theory, this is a half-done project that they can pick back up and,
Right.
just kind of kickstart, but that's between the property owner and the engineer to sort of hammer out exactly what they're doing. And a big part of the discussion was they're looking at phasing, how that phasing will work. So I'm sure they're assessing what will happen as they move forward with that. And we did reiterate to them that programming of any building expansion would be critical to making an appropriate decision.
Okay. And again, if there's any opportunity to encourage them to enter into a discussion with us, either prior to the application or whatever, I have some ideas that I think maybe they would benefit from, and I'm sure everyone else has abundance of intelligence that would be able to help. And I don't want to hold people under my thumb. My intent is to get them some auxiliary parking permitted. And
I guess my only caution would be any member expressing thoughts and ideas about how they might do something can sometimes backfire. Because it can, whether it's intended or not, it can be perceived as, if you do these things, people will buy in. We haven't talked about what the idea is, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, and it's just, in general, and it's something that I have to be cautious of when I talk to people on a day-to-day basis, is not making suggestions about how they do things. And it's something I had to learn the hard way, and so I always caution members about being careful about designing, and instead offering, here's something that I think is important to consider, and sort of talking about more the conceptual and how you might get to this point. And again, I don't know what your ideas are, and it's a general caution more than a specific caution in this case.
Right, and it's my intent is to help accommodate and help them and accommodate that, but I can't help them if they don't sit down and have a discussion. So I just don't know if and when the appropriate time for that would be, or whether the engineer could come in and talk and not the applicant. And
really, I think the time is when they propose something and sort of assessing what they've proposed and how it may or may not meet the standards that you're held to review. It's hard to be helpul from this position.
Right. Well, and again, that's why I wanted to kind of give the
it's so easy for it to go
continuance.
sideways.
Right, so, is it appropriate to ask or just request that some of these engineers that we deal with to come in and speak with us on what our expectations are in general? just to kind of help, well, like, I'm a landscaper, I like to see landscaping, I've been pretty consistent with that, or things that we've been consistent with.
No, I think that you...
I know we have to look at each one individually, but if they knew, hey, this member usually brings up landscaping.
Rules and regulations and the bylaws
Right.
are your expectations.
All right.
So, if it's a matter of, people are consistently not meeting landscape expectations, then let's look at landscaping bylaws.
Right.
Or how we put that into text that someone can look at and say, this is what the expectation is.
Right.
Because that is, our expectations are outlined in the bylaws and the regulations. Now, you do say consistently, hey, I like landscaping. I'd like to see more landscaping. So people will eventually start to pick that up. But if you want to formalize it, then it's a matter of putting it into written word.
Okay.
Along those lines, as a site designer, many towns have a standard set of details in their regulations somewhere. And I have long thought that would benefit Lunenburg. In the industry, there is a lot of borrowing, a lot of sharing. A lot of the details come from one company to another, and they're pretty much the same detail. And in the future, when we get to subdivision rules and regulations, would that be the appropriate place for standard details, or would it be in the bylaw?
Depends what kind of standard details we're talking
Like
about.
erosion control, landscape, tree plantings, berms, drainage?
We could probably work it into a variety of different places.
Because I'm going to suggest it's a stormwater task force as well, because the
Well,
stormwater...
then I would say that those things would go in the stormwater regulations
If they
that
were
we've talked about.
if they were in the general bylaw, could stormwater and planning reference them?
Potentially.
That would make it...
Yeah, we can talk about that offline.
So anyways, the standard details per town, they come out pretty convenient and handy sometimes. It saves us work. And it makes a standardized product for the town. It's not like subdivision A over here, B and C, they're all three different, and they're all utilizing different techniques and...
You find it online at different towns, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Check them out.
Yep. Concord, Acton, I believe Boxborough, it doesn't sound right though. I can take a quick look and send you a list.
Okay.
Or when it comes, if that becomes a discussion, then I can bring those as examples.
Okay.
All right, and then I just have one last general comment that now that I am chair, I know Matthew and Damon had both laid some foundations I'd like to build on, and I just want to make the board aware that all your input is wanted. I encourage you to speak up. So feel free to say what you want, and we'll go from there. So, and the public as well, I would encourage them to participate and engage, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So,
Thank you.
thank you. And I guess I would accept the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
We didn't get a vote.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Details,
don't leave.
man.
Hatchet Man's got the plans.
Every page, please.
Hey.
Every page except for...
Correct, yes.